George Washington University has hired a convicted terrorist and former al-Qaeda recruiter to join its distinguished faculty under the university's program on extremism. Jesse Morton used to go by the name Yunus Abdullah Muhammad and was sentenced to 11 years in prison, but is now a research fellow at GWU's Center for Cyber and Homeland Security. Joining us now by Skype to talk more about this is Amber Athey, an investigative reporter for campusreform.org. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for your time today. Could you share a little background about Mr. Morton?
Sure. So Mr. Morton is a former al-Qaeda recruiter, as you mentioned. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison, but only served 4 because he cooperated with the FBI and helped them with their counterterrorism efforts. So there is some evidence that he is truly reformed. And now GW has hired him in their program on extremism. Campus Reform actually went to GW to interview students about this, and students were decidedly mixed. Some of them thought it was a great idea, and some of them were rightfully concerned that there is a potential that this man is not truly reformed, and so he's going to be around impressionable college students.
Well, what are some reasons the university decided to hire him, and what exactly will he be doing at the school?
So he will be doing research on counterterrorism efforts, and they decided to hire him because as someone who is a homegrown terrorist from the U.S. and has later reformed, they believe he has larger knowledge as to how to prevent people in the U.S. from becoming radicalized, and that is very important knowledge. But at the same time, when we see ISIS, when we see on college campuses, students are rather ignorant when it comes to terrorism and ISIS, and a lot of times they actually support it. For example, at George Mason University, students actually signed a petition supporting ISIS. And so while Morton does have probably extensive knowledge to offer in this situation, the concern is that being around students who have shown this naivety surrounding terrorism, it could have really risky results.
Well, Jesse Morton says he's a changed man. Do you think it's possible for a former terrorist to change his ways?
Definitely. I think we should always give people the option to reform themselves and believe that they've truly changed. And if he has truly changed, we should applaud him for his efforts to help the FBI and to commit to counterterrorism efforts. So there is a potential for people to change. At the same time, we should definitely approach this issue very seriously, and we should definitely make sure that he's properly vetted. And we should remember that he only recently got out of prison just about a year ago, and he's still not allowed to leave the District of Columbia. So we could almost count this as sort of a trial run to make sure that he's properly reacclimated into U.S. society.
How are GW students responding to Mr. Morton joining the faculty? I know you mentioned that reaction has been mixed. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So one student actually said it was cool that GW has hired this man. He said it was good for intellectual diversity. Other students said that they were concerned that maybe he wasn't truly reformed. But not a single student that we interviewed said that this made them feel unsafe. And they said that they felt comfortable having him on campus. And if that's something that the students are comfortable with, then, it's reasonable to believe that he's truly reformed based on the FBI statements. And also those of the GW program on extremism who believe that he truly is reformed. So the students, again, are mixed. Some think it's great, some are a little concerned, but none of them are outright saying this is a bad idea.
George Washington says that hiring the former terrorist will aid in understanding more terror attacks and ultimately help counter violent extremism in the future. Do you think that's true?
There's definitely a possibility. I know that programs like this have been done in Europe, specifically the UK, where former terrorists have gone on to university positions where they've done research and taught students. At the same time, the UK has been experiencing a wave of terror unlike we've ever seen before. So I'm not sure that they're necessarily the best example for our counterterrorism efforts. So perhaps this is an example where we can try this out and see what happens.
Yeah, are you personally a little nervous about the appointment here? And why has campusreform.org got involved in this?
Well, I'm definitely wary. Like I said, there's almost no guarantee that this person is truly reformed. There have been cases where reformed terrorists have gone back to their old ways and used their resources to recruit and fundraise for ISIS. So that concern is definitely real. And Campus Reform is reporting on this issue to raise awareness so that people know what's going on. And we also wanted to interview students because a lot of news sites don't go and talk to students. They report on these stories, but we don't get the firsthand accounts of what's really happening on campus. And so that was our reasoning for going out and doing this video. What do GW students think? Do they feel safe on campus? Do they feel unsafe? What do they think about this hiring?
Okay. Amber Athey with campusreform.org. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.